I'm Stephanie Filardi. Welcome to Mind the Gap, the podcast. I believe many people fall short of living the life of their dreams simply because they get stuck in what I call the gap. The vision behind this podcast is to help you understand how to navigate the gap and in the process, awaken to the life that is waiting for you. It starts now. Let's go. Hi everyone, thank you for joining. Let's start by taking 3 conscious breaths. Inhale through the nose, filling up. Exhale, let it go out of your mouth with a sigh. Again, inhale through the nose, filling up. Exhale out of the mouth, really let it go. Squeeze out all the air with a sigh. And last time, inhale, filling up. Exhale, let it go. In today's episode, I will be speaking about goals. One of my favorite topics. I'm curious as I say the word goals, how you're experiencing it. So I want to share a little bit about my relationship with goals, and in particular, my resistance over the years to actually setting goals. I suspect that some of you might be able to relate to this. And speaking for myself, I feel that in the past, when I have been resistant to setting goals, it was mainly because I had some fear. I had fear around committing. I had fear around failing and a host of other things that's connected to fear, right? So when we set a goal, we put ourselves out there. There's this part of us that really becomes vulnerable when we say, I want to do this in this amount of time, and this is how I'm going to do it. It's a very adult-like thing to do. So no worries if you're not the type of person who sets goals. And if you are the type of person that sets goals, awesome. So going back a little bit, in episode 7, I spoke to you about values, and I encouraged you to take the time to look at what matters in your life. And I encouraged you to list out 3 to 5 of your values. So this episode, we're going to speak a little bit more detail about how do we connect those values to goals, right? So I'm going to give you an example. So years ago, I wanted to run. And I always said, I am not a runner. And my sister, who is an athlete, was like, what do you mean you're not a runner? You have 2 legs. Let's go. So I set a goal to run a 10K. And she will tell you that the first time I ran with her, I was miserable with a capital M. The first 2 minutes, my shins were killing me. I couldn't breathe. However, I set the goal that I would complete a 10K. So what that required of me was to create action steps along the way during this training program. And I did. I completed it. Now today, I can't tell you that I'm a fast runner. I'm actually quite slow, but I'm able to do it. So a quote that I want to share with you that came across my desk this morning by Vincent van Gogh says this: if you hear a voice within you saying you are not a painter, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. So this is an opportunity as you sit here listening to this about really asking yourself, are your values important enough for you to begin to set goals around them? And if you haven't yet discerned what your values are, awesome, you still have time to do it. So something that has been really helpful for me over the years when I'm trying to get clarity on something. So again, whether you're just starting to create your values or you're ready to set goals, is sometimes we have to disengage. Sometimes we have to disconnect from the noisy world and our busy day in order to really get clear on what matters and what's important. Over the years, I have sometimes gone into stillness, so taking periods of time, could be hours, it could be days, and really giving myself the freedom and the space and the freedom from distraction to see what it is that wants to come through. Some of us actually are better able to disengage when we're physically active. So I have experienced that as well. When I was writing my book, Reclaiming Joy, every time I went out for a run, I received a lot of information and wisdom and clarity and would often be writing in my head. So again, there's no right or wrong for what works. Do what works for you, but most importantly is give yourself the opportunity to disengage from the busyness of life to get clear on your values. 3 to 5. Choose 3 to 5 values. And some of us have a hard time coming up with only 3 to 5. And if that's the case, that's okay. What you can do is you can create subcategories underneath the values. So what do I mean by that? For me, one of my values is fun. Really important for me to have fun. So when I think of that word fun, it's quite a broad category. So within that category of fun, I have subcategories. For example, how can I have fun at home, in my personal life, with my friends, with my partner, right? That's one direction. And then the other direction is, how can I have fun at work? And for me, at this stage of my career, it means doing things that I truly enjoy, doing things that I really want to do, and not saying yes to everything that comes across my desk. So if it's not fun, I'm really not very interested in it. Having said that, something about fun. The way I define fun is it's more of an experience, right? So for me, sometimes fun is being home, hanging out with my cats, and just being with myself. And other times, fun is taking the day to go into the city and explore like a tourist. So it really, again, there's no right or wrong. And I encourage you to take the time as you discern your values and as you really put some subcategories to them, that you think about what is it really that it means to you, not to somebody else, although other people can guide us and teach us. And as I've said before, we can learn from others. The most important thing is that you decide what it is for you. So moving on to the goals part of this. So once you discern your 3 to 5 values, then what you can do is you can decide the goals that you need to focus on for each of those values, right? Makes sense. So the values help us to create a roadmap of sorts. Now, I like to set goals. It depends. Sometimes I'm setting a 3-month goal, a 6-month goal, 9-month goal, a year goal. Some of us are setting 5 or 10-year goals. So I would say, depending on your values and what's most important to you, allow yourself to be flexible with the timing. Allow yourself to be flexible with the timing. So I'm going to use my example of fun. So fun is something that I don't have to wait until tomorrow to do, right? It's a daily choice about how I show up. So it's something that I can say, okay, what I want to do is on a daily basis, I want to show up maybe with more of a sense of humor, or I want to plug into more things that make me laugh. Okay. And what does that mean? That could mean, looking at a comedy skit or looking at a comedian for a few minutes that I find funny, right? So that's a daily thing I could do. I can also set a weekly goal of having fun. So maybe that means seeing my girlfriends or going out with my fiance every week. So having something to look forward to weekly. On a monthly basis, maybe that's going to a play in Manhattan, plugging myself into concerts or culture. And then there's an annual as well. So an annual could be perhaps taking a vacation or going on a retreat of some sort. So by really being clear on your values and then assigning goals to it, you can begin to take action steps. And that will be in a later podcast. But the key here is to really get clear on what your values are and sit down and start to write goals. A few notes about goals specifically, right? The first thing, as I keep saying, is that they need to be connected to your values. They must be connected to your values. It does not make sense to set a goal about something if it's not important to you. Because if it's not something that gets you excited, inspired, or motivated, ultimately it's not going to last, right? The second thing, you want your goals to be SMART. So this is an acronym, SMART. So the S stands for specific. So you need to be specific. In my example, I said, I want to add more fun into my life. On a weekly basis, I will make it a point to either see my girlfriends and do something fun or do something fun with my fiance. Very specific. The next thing, the M, they need to be measurable. Measurable. So how do I measure fun? Well, that's pretty easy. It's a feeling. It's, does this get me excited to think about it, to plan it? Am I enjoying this activity? So specific, measurable. The A stands for action oriented. Very important. You have to set a goal where you can actually take action on it. So this isn't a philosophical idea of, oh, it would be nice to go into the city or to see my friends more. It's, I will take action on this. So I will buy the tickets. I will send the text message or call my friend. So specific, measurable, action-oriented, and the R stands for realistic, right? So I feel that a lot of times in life, we maybe aren't really realistic with where we are in our life and what we can actually do. So it's important to be realistic. It doesn't mean you're not going to be a little uncomfortable or stretch yourself as you are on this path of working towards your goals, but it means that you actually can achieve them, because if you set yourself up for a goal that's unrealistic, then you're going to end up being disappointed. Right? And we know how the energy of disappointment feels. It does not feel good. So realistic. So specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and then finally time-bound. So this is, some people use the word deadline, and I start thinking about that word differently because it starts with the word dead, and I feel like that activates my nervous system in some weird way. So I like to use the word time-bound. If you don't have timing attached to your goals, then you really don't have a motivation to get it done. And this is something in life that I've kind of always done intuitively. When we're trying to do things and get things accomplished, it's important that we tell ourselves in our mind and write it down, by when will this happen, right? By when will this happen? Now, we all know life can throw curveballs and sometimes we get off track, and that's cool, right? Then we sit back down and we say, okay, I thought this is something I could achieve in 3 months. It looks like it's going to take 6 months. So really important. And this connects again back into the realistic. So the goals need to be smart, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. And yes, if you feel a little bit nervous, awesome, right? That nervous energy can also be excited energy. And the way we grow is when we get to our edge and we move beyond the edge because we take the steps that we need to take. So the next thing is you want to make sure you write down your goals. Have them handy. I keep a journal. I use journals for lots of different things. So I have a specific journal that's designed for my values, my goals, and my action steps. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me on track. It also gives me the ability to get it out of my head and on paper so I don't ruminate about it. And there's something about writing things down. I have written down things that I wrote down 15 years ago that are now coming true. So there's power in the pen and putting it down. I also encourage you to keep them somewhere visible. I use different things like vision boards and different altars, and I like having things in front of me because it reminds me. In particular, on the days where maybe I'm feeling tired or lazy or I'm not feeling motivated, which happens to all of us. So really having your values and your goals written down somewhere where you can access them on a daily basis, checking in with yourself, will also keep you excited. Something else to consider. Sometimes our goals include other people. Right? So if you're in a situation where you're wanting to buy a home with your partner, then perhaps one of your goals is to save money, and it's something to be done together. So this is something that I encourage you, when you really sit and look at your values and start to write down your goals, if there are people in your life who will be part of this, that you include them to the best degree you can. Some people will be willingly doing this with you and some people won't. What I can say about that is don't take it personally and keep doing for yourself what is important to you, and either the person will come along or they will not come along, right? And that's also part of a larger picture. But it's important that you include people in your life, because the other thing that's important is that when you start to take action, right? So when you start to begin taking action, you are going to need support. And sometimes you're going to need support, simply a word of encouragement. And sometimes you're going to need other support. Maybe there's somebody in your life who you know has accomplished the thing that you're trying to accomplish, or has gone through the relationship challenge that you are presently going through. So when you start to recognize what you need, often you'll find that you do need some sort of support or help. Maybe it's a workshop, maybe it's a book, right? You get the idea. The other thing is that sometimes our goals require money, right? So if you want to go on that awesome vacation next year, it requires you to have a certain amount of money. And again, this goes back to our goals being realistic and time bound. So if you want to go on a massive vacation and take a month off, maybe you need to save a little bit longer than 6 months. Maybe it's a 12-month saving pattern. So whatever it is for you, just being clear with yourself on what's important is the most important thing that I can tell you. So just to recap, when it comes to our goals, I listed 4 things. The first is that you want your goals to be connected to your values. The second thing is you want your goals to be SMART, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. Third, you want to write them down, keep them visible, and share with others if they are part of your vision. And fourth, begin taking action. So taking action as soon as you can so that you recognize what you need, whether it's in the form of some sort of help or it's a money thing. So that's it on goals. In the future, I will be speaking more about specific action steps. In the meantime, enjoy the process. And remember, if you hear a voice within you saying you are not a painter, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. I support you. Let's go.